discussion item, so, yeah. Turned, all right, we're ready. Good, we're recording, John, all right, well, would you all join us please for the Pledge of Allegiance? Put in the chair.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so before we get started with our regular board meeting, we do have a public hearing this evening to start with first. We are short of board member. Daryl is he's got a sports event or something, so he won't be with us tonight. So it's just the four of us and Andy. Sorry, Andy. Yeah. Was back there. The practice. Emerson and all you folks. So. All right, so with that, I'm going to open up the public hearing in relation to Kender Farm Incorporated DBA Blue Sky at 434 Main Street, Damariscotta, in reference to their yeah, let me get my paperwork open here. So their application for marijuana application. So pretty much open. If anybody is here to speak on or against or for, has any questions, it's an open public meeting. I know we have, at least you guys are all. Yep. So if does somebody somebody want to give us a quick overview maybe or something like that for a public? Yeah, come on up. We'll get you, we're gonna make you come up on the hot seat here. So no hiding in the back room, but yeah, come on up and then we can get you on the, just please pick up the mics and everything, but
so we're hoping to open an adult use cannabis store within your community, and it's a licensed recreational store where we're focused on safe, clean, quality products for the consumer, and hoping to be able to participate in this community with that store.
So yeah, your name again? You got
Jacob Deku.
Jacob Deku. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you said it earlier, but I'm not going to remember. So yeah. All right. Is there? Does anybody have any questions? I'd ask out in the public there, but it's all you guys. So lopsided audience, right? No. No. Anybody good? Anybody up on the big screen come in? So
Just
yeah. So this is usually how a public hearing goes, most likely. So, well, not hearing any questions, comments from anybody, we'll close the public hearing. That was painless part of it.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we didn't make anybody bring a big PowerPoint presentation or anything. So yeah, all right, yeah. So with that, you're more than welcome to sit there if you want, but I'll keep it on. Thank you. Okay, all right. So public hearing is closed at this point, and with that, I'll call the select board for the town of Damariscotta to order for a regular meeting for January 21st. We can get started on, we'll get some housekeeping out of the way. We have minutes from January 7th. Everybody get a chance to take a peek. Tom, you
Yes,
satisfied?
Leslie continues to amaze me. Her streak is still continuing.
All right. I think you're gonna make a motion off of that?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve both sets of meetings.
You're gonna do both, okay.
Minutes, January 7th and January 13th.
All right. Thank you, Tom. I'll second the motion. Any discussion on those? Okay, call for vote. All those in favor?
I can't vote on the
And
second one.
yeah, I figured, yeah, I just put them up, but that's all right. We've got three. So Dan's gonna abstain and we've got Cam on it, so, yeah. Tom threw you under the bus on that one, so you did. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna move on. So payroll warrants, is payroll warrant 31? Just everybody get a chance to look them over. If there's any questions or comments, we throw them out now?
No.
All right, I'll move payroll warrant number 31.
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? All right, we'll go there. And then we have accounts payable 32 and 33. I'll throw those up there. I'll move 32 and 33. Nobody else wants to.
Second.
Andrew's gonna second. All those in, discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Okay. All right. If it pleases the board, we usually do this, it's up to the rest of the board here, but, we do have folks waiting. I know we have a restaurant owner that probably wants to get back to work. And we have some folks waiting here, for, a license. So is it okay with the board if we move those up and wait for the strategic plan and the damn new update? No.
The what?
The damn new update. It's right there. Damn new Public Works Committee update.
This is being taped.
It's on the agenda. Oh. All right, so under official action items, we can start with, the adult recreation cannabis retail license for Kender Farm Incorporated, EBA Blue Sky. Andy, is everything satisfied on the town's end? Do we have paperwork in and are we waiting on anything?
The only thing we're waiting on, I went through I apologize for not numbering the pages again.
Sorry, yeah.
If you get to the kind of the memo sort of page there, just kind of outlines the sections of the ordinance that need to be complied with, for this.
Okay.
There was the 9.3.5 new application consideration. There's 11 items there to be checked off.
Mhm.
So the only thing I'm aware that we just need to get is, in the absence at the moment of our police chief, he starts Monday. And then
Right.
our fire chief just hasn't gotten back to us yet on his review, but those are the only two things that I haven't found.
Okay,
It's an existing structure. There shouldn't be any issues. There's a lot of checklist things that we have to go back in and do anyways, that they have to show they have to meet. That would be done on a follow-up site visit
I got you.
before they
Okay.
open. The code officer did supply us with his review, again, identifying that it's in a zone allowing for this use to be there. Site plan review's already been completed with the planning board.
Okay.
So that's the only thing that we need. So I would recommend that you consider approval only in the condition that the fire chief's report comes in.
So can we talk about the absence of the police chief's report for a second? Because it felt like it would have been helpful to me for that review to have happened based upon the application. So so I'll just say that and he starts on Monday.
He does.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But I think you're saying that, depending on that, all other things are looking all right, and you're looking for a vote to say, assuming that that goes well, then we'd be okay.
Yeah, if you want to have it on those two, given that the review of the police chief is the reports that were submitted by the applicant in terms of criminal history, it was a pretty narrow review of theirs. The fire chief's review on the particular property and the premise is slightly a little more involved.
Right.
That building, when it was built, may not have gone through the same things required of this ordinance. But yes, to your point, it hadn't been done, because we haven't actually really had one in there yet, so.
Well, that could be coming in Monday. You know, that's the plan. So, yeah, so they've filled everything up to the point where the things that are missing are on the towns. And so the applicant we're satisfied with, they've brought everything on board and just waiting for those two, from the town's end. So we can do a conditional, yeah.
I didn't know that it was
That's a
fair
lot.
to make him wait another 2 weeks, a minimum of another 2 weeks to.
Right,
So I'll see John Friday, and I know Michael sent him a couple emails about it.
yeah.
We'll get it on the chief's radar next week.
Yeah, so we've got the fire chief's report and the,
Yep, so that's 9.2, 9 or 2.6 there.
So,
Calls
Andy,
out.
how long would it, you think it'd take the chief to do his review?
I think it's pretty straightforward, based on what the ordinance requires
Yeah,
that person to
I think
review.
it's just, John's just he's got a lot of hats, so he just needs to, yeah. Okay. So it was, and then fire chief and then,
Police chief.
and the police chief, so just those two, and then we can, okay. So yeah, honestly, yeah, we get those done, but it's right, we're the holdup at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
okay,
submitted in late November.
so they've done everything in, we're just a holdup, so, all right. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the adult recreation cannabis retail license for Kender Farm Incorporated, DBA Blue Sky, with a condition of the two reports we just stated. Does that work?
I think so.
Okay, fair enough. So basically, I'm gonna make a motion. It's just, it's on our end. It's not on your guys' end, so.
I would just add the word positive review
Conditional.
by the condition on
Was
the
that,
positive.
well, motion, I just made the motion with those two items that are pending, so, all right. And just,
I'll move things along at this stage, because we still have at least another month waiting for the whole Office of Cannabis Policy to.
gotcha, you gotta go through the other stuff there, yeah, okay, great, yeah. So I've got a motion on the table, if we hear a second.
A second.
Andrew's got a second, okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote, all those in favor? Okay, we got two, okay, opposed? Got two opposed, okay, all right, so motion does not carry. All right, so that's a failed motion on that one. All right, we're going to revisit it, so,
I'll propose another motion to make it conditional on the positive review of both the fire chief and the police chief.
okay,
That is what we said though already.
No, that wasn't his motion. He didn't have a positive review.
You just said review. I think we need to hear back what.
no, I just, the items that are required by the ordinance, correct?
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are missing, yeah.
So
So are we changing are we
just
changing the recommendation of the ordinance right now with the motion?
I'll just read: the fire chief and or his agent shall inspect the location of proposed location to determine if all town ordinances and any other applicable regulations concerning fire, health, and safety have been satisfied, and shall report findings to the town clerk. The police chief or his or her agent shall investigate the application, including the criminal history record information, and shall report findings and writings to the town clerk.
And obviously, we want those to be positive, right?
Well, we have an ordinance. And let's read the ordinance again. Does it
Oh, I
say,
just heard it. I mean, you read it.
the ordinance says the police chief, his or her agent shall investigate the application, including the criminal history of information, and report the findings in town to the clerk.
Is there a problem with the word positive?
Well, we have an
Positive
ordinance.
review?
We have an ordinance.
The review is gonna be conducted, that's by
Sure.
ordinance, okay?
Yeah.
But obviously, it needs to be a positive review, right?
Does it say that in the ordinance?
No,
No, doesn't say it in the
no,
ordinance.
that's why I made
Right.
the motion to add the word positive.
You can't add it to the,
We can.
he can make a motion, he's made a motion, yeah, you've made a motion, so let me get back here, you made a motion, Tom. Tom's gonna motion on the table to hear a second.
But we can't add something
I
for the audience.
just need, hang on, is there a second? Okay, not hearing a second, okay. That motion dies, all right, nobody
Yeah,
seconded it,
yeah.
okay, so, yeah, a little bit of a stalemate here, so, looking at what the ordinance reads, I'll bring my motion up again, the ordinance is requiring these two items, but it doesn't require, per the ordinance, it's reporting the findings, but it doesn't say yay, nay, positive or negative. I
must be dense here, because if they do the review and they have concerns to the extent that they don't think that it should move forward, we should know about that.
Cause I believe at the end of the day, it's up to the board to make a judgment about whatever the chief.
Yeah, but we don't know what they're gonna
report,
say.
But we don't know what they're gonna say.
Right.
well, that's
Which
why it was
it can't-
conditional.
But it can't be just
With
conditional
four.
on them completing the report. Then we need to review it and make it pass a judgment on it based upon what they say.
That's why we're objecting, that's all.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure everything's.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
just trying to figure, we
I believe
have a
it's our
narrow.
role to do that.
Yeah,
So the difference is perhaps thread the needle in whether or not it can be approved upon their positive findings before the next meeting, or whether you're wanting them to come back for the next meeting to reconsider the.
so as far as I'm concerned, if I hear about it in a special meeting or whatever, however I read it, hear it sooner or later, or I don't care. It doesn't have to be, 2 weeks or a week. If they're done on Tuesday, we can get together and decide.
But as it is now, we would just still just get those reports from them and bring it up at a meeting to be called.
Sure.
The way you've now voted.
Yeah.
Oops, somebody's ringing.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, I'm just reading, it's silence here, but just reading everything again, so. Yeah, I'm just gonna make sure we're not, you're. All right,
Maybe-
your
maybe
motion,
we're getting-
make sure that. All right,
I think.
So if Tom makes his-
Maybe we can try to clarify,
maybe.
we're not just saying, it's not conditional on just their review. It's conditional on a positive review. In other words, if they do a review and there's some significant issues, even though they did the review, it could be approved.
yeah, I think I get what you're saying, that we're not, yeah, we're typically, we've had the. Sorry, guys, this is sometimes we get wrapped up in an ordinance, or an
Yeah,
ordinance.
as Dan said, that's our job, is
Yeah.
to look at these
Yeah.
reports and
Okay.
decide on behalf of the town
So-
whether it makes sense to go forward.
With Tom's motion, if. These come in, say, Monday, it was hypothetical, the chief comes in Monday, does his report. It comes to you, the town, we've already moved it on that.
Condition of a positive finding. So
Right.
how I understood his motion, if.
Typically what we, right, which is what we would see in
Right.
a normal review, so it's just adding, yeah, okay, I'm just making sure, I didn't wanna.
I just wanna make sure I'm clear in that, the way
Yeah,
you
that's
worded,
what I'm
that's how
saying.
I interpret it, but
Yeah.
also I was hearing that. You don't wanna move forward without actually reviewing those, at a meeting.
Well,
No,
if, however we hear it authoritatively, that it's a positive review, we don't necessarily have to have a meeting unless it's.
Yeah,
required by law.
I'd be, yeah, okay, that would, so that's, all right, so I think, Tom, make your motion again.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead with conditional approval, subject to a positive review by the fire chief and the police chief on the application.
Okay, I'll second that. We've got it, we've clarified, I think, so I'll second that motion. Do we have any other discussion? All right, we'll call for vote again. All right, all those in favor? All right, so we've got three, okay, opposed? Yeah, okay, one opposed, so three. All right, so just to clarify, that was a little bit of a roar, we're going through the ordinance, so, really, yeah, still waiting on those two reports, which is on the town's end. So the police chief, the fire chief, they do their stuff. If there's no issues, then it's good to go. If not, then we'll revisit and find out if there's any findings on the chief or both chiefs, sorry, the fire or the police chief.
No, and I appreciate your due diligence.
No problem. Part of this is, as you guys are probably aware, we don't currently have a police chief. He's on his way, but we're in between. So normally these come in, we already have the report and it's not a big deal. So just a little bit of threading a needle with legalese, so.
I really don't anticipate any issues. We added video surveillance too that is available for the police to have if they ever have anything
Yeah.
come up in that area.
Gotcha, okay, all right, great guys, so, all right, so Andy will just keep us in the loop and we'll go from there, so I'll do the chief and whatever, so, all right, sounds good, all right, let's move along to the next one, so. We've got a gentleman here that wants to get back to work as well, so. All right, we're gonna pull out the ordinance book for you now, so yeah, for your renewal. So, Lucky Fortune liquor license renewal, I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license renewal for Lucky Fortune.
Second.
That's good. Second. Dan beat you that one.
I gotta do something.
Dan seconded, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay, all right, that was good, so we're all set there, and you know the drill for picking up getting. what you
I think
need.
it's online now, so Becky,
This year, we need to wait with your online now, so I don't know.
That's right,
yeah.
Come back to pick up the and that with them.
I forget, they make it much easier now, so, yeah. No, I
So
would
it's gonna
forget.
be automatic. Oh,
yeah, Becky will scan it into the system once they get the signatures on there and it'll be good.
Okay, so does it need to be, make a public notices on the newspaper still? Cause I remember last year I had to pay for whatever the fee to make a.
Yeah, just the initial, we host on the renewals, it's a slightly different process than brand new.
Okay.
So you're fine.
So it will be automatic, Becky will scan and
Yep.
send it to them, okay, perfect, thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Awesome. Okay. Anything added on official action items?
No, but I gotta go make sure to get that, so you can sign it before you leave today.
Okay. You want to do that?
Becky can get it.
Thank you for your time,
out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So, you want to do that now, or do you have to?
No, I'll get it before you leave.
I said, we can take it quick, you gotta run. All right, now we're gonna back up, to number 6. We don't have anybody in, I know, Gage is waiting for us here for something else, so, anything come in last minute for correspondence? No, good enough, so, manager's report,
Great.
anything good, exciting, fun happened?
Lots happening, a lot not included, but wanted to put something in there.
Where?
It's like the 4th one in,
It's early in the report then.
Is it
back
before?
backside of the
After
3rd page.
It's just after the minute.
Oh, yeah, there it is, yeah, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Of note, February, I believe it's the 10th, Jimmy Hall Day of Service.
Oh, yes.
February
Um,
10th.
I believe it's the 10th.
Yeah, I think it is. Okay.
And last year we did the pet food drive. I gotta send something out to the kind of all staff and just kind of poll them and see what they'd like to consider doing this year. In light of that, it's a few weeks away. One thing that had floated was whether we, as a group, go donate time to some cause for a few hours that day, or whether potentially let folks kind of pick their own cause and log a few volunteer hours somewhere. But we're gonna work internally to think about that. I don't know if you all had something in particular that you'd like us to consider doing.
I like the pet proof one.
We could
Should
try
we
to
not
do
do
it.
it again?
Just worried that we might have waited a little too long potentially.
Oh,
Take some coordination with the businesses to do that and put it up and.
Well, besides that, what were his other interests? I know there were a few that he was involved in. Well, you would know better than I.
Oh, I mean. It's the easy one is always with the fire department, but they, I mean, that's. I'll have to think a little bit about it. I don't know how that would,
how
I
do,
mean,
how
they
do
already.
we do something for the
do
fire
some-
department?
Yeah, well, that's a tricky one. It would have to be, I don't know. There would have to be coordination with JR, with the chief.
Yeah, maybe
Whether or
we-
not they're usually 4 steps ahead of us.
Maybe
So,
somebody could talk to John, he might have some.
yeah,
ideas.
he'd be the one to chat with, but I know.
But it's really only like 3 weeks away.
Just coming up, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is, trying to make sure that, as the board passed the resolve, is just making sure the community is aware that, in honor of him and all the service he gave, to this community, just to encourage any and all to kind of, it's called as a day of volunteerism and
Yeah.
giving, so it's not just so much ours, but just a remembrance and a reminder for everyone to try and think about giving.
Well, if
Something
there is a needy cause, I mean, I can get Rotary people to step
Yeah.
up, so,
Do we have, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Tom, too, because I just started thinking, I remember, Jimmy took care of his mother for a long time. His mother worked I think she worked at Yellow Front, and she'd always walk that down and stuff like that. And do we have any, I don't know how you reach out, but
Put in a new sidewalk.
3 weeks.
Get right on that.
But with the goal, I mean, there's a lot of elderly folks in town that might need somebody to check in on them. I don't know how you coordinate that. If there's already maybe some folks that we know of here at the town office that might need just need to be checked in on or some wood lugged in or something like that. That's, so maybe Tom, you guys might know.
maybe Meals on Wheels would know, because they're out
Yeah.
there doing that.
Yeah, exactly, maybe coordinate.
I know somebody in that group, so I could.
I know the lady up at the Y, Karen.
Karen, yeah.
And she's
Karen,
very,
yeah.
she's
Yeah.
very connected to that.
Yes.
She's actually reached out to me on various occasions about
Awesome. Okay.
various things.
That might be, there might be a handful of people that.
Yeah, Karen would be great
Yeah,
to talk.
what do you need? You need,
I would-
the deck shoveled
maybe-
off or something.
John Roberts and Karen, and we can discuss the
Yeah.
results. Yeah.
All right. I think we volunteered Tom for, tasked him on that.
I'll do it, yeah. I'll be happy.
So, yeah, I mean, something to think about anyway, maybe.
I'll do that.
All right. Boom, that comes up quick, I forget, that's good. All right. All right, any other highlights in there?
Other than that, just quickly, quick update on the damn new public works. I don't know if that was a self-titled thing or not, but it's kind of fun, I thought, so I've gone with it.
Damn.
We're still being recorded.
We come first.
Damn new.
Meeting, they met last week.
Last week, yep.
Yep.
As a, second, that was great, I mean, take the total voting population, it wasn't a great turnout, but it was a good turnout for our public meetings. We had about 15.
It was better than
people there.
most, yes.
Um,
Yeah.
people
Was
from
it
both communities.
Were there constructive conversations?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I would say for the most part, yeah. And I've had, I don't know if you've run anybody, but I've had, several conversations, mostly, it's interesting, most of the folks that I've talked to have been Newcastle residents that have come downtown. And I've had some, I was telling you the other day, there's been a few that were here. And they've continued a conversation, very constructive, and some of the folks that have been at the meetings have gone and done their own research. They've actually called some other towns, surrounding towns, to ask questions. Actually, kind of interesting where folks have been a little more involved than I think we're used to seeing in a positive way, right? So I would say for the most part, there's been most of the questions and concerns naturally, and it would, for us to revolve around, okay, let's get through this, what's it gonna cost? Which we're, it's still work in progress, still working to that, so a lot of the numbers, I mean, you're getting stuff owned, but there's still some tweaking to do, and it really comes down to some, I think, talked to somebody the other day that, they mentioned like, we're past the feasibility, like the feasibility is there, like it can be done, but at what cost and the details, so. I thought it was overall pretty good meeting and presentation, I don't know what your
Was.
thoughts were on it, yeah.
Yeah, I just,
We got through it, most
Yeah,
of it.
we got through it.
Half the time we don't.
yeah, well, I would just acknowledge and just put out there that I think, the point of the meetings is a working meeting of the committee. And acknowledge that there is, at times some frustration amongst the public who are there not, wanting to just observe, but also participate, and so, we did pull out and have the kind of whiteboard there for them to post the questions if we couldn't get to them and couldn't answer them in the meeting. Cause the last meeting they had didn't get through, I think, 2 items maybe of the 5 that were on there, and so trying to refocus and say, okay, the committee really needs the opportunity to like get through these, but trying to respect that the questions that people will have, and they won't know them until they get to that point in the agenda, so
Yeah,
we were trying to balance that. I think it was about an hour and a half we were here,
yeah,
as a committee.
got through the agenda, and there was a little bit of, to your point, there was a little bit of frustration on that, I think it was talked about after the meeting with some folks that, but some folks are expecting more of an open back and forth, and we explained like we need to get through the agenda first. There's information coming out that may answer a question that you may have, but let's get through it first, so, and then
But honestly, the questions that they're asking is we don't have the answers yet. And they're determined to get something out of us that we don't have yet, but we will.
Right,
Yeah, a lot of the questions require some more background and, it's, the answer can't be provided right then. So there's some preparation there, we're like, we don't have that yet, I'm like, why? Well, we didn't know we needed to. So I know Andy and Kevin have been working really hard on, there's a lot of spreadsheets and numbers that go into that, there's a lot of work to it, so moving stuff around has been growing, but I think when we get to the point where there's when we're ready, they're gonna bring it, you guys will bring it back to the board.
right.
And then this group will decide, hey, where do we want more information? Do we wanna go to a public meeting and get, more of an open presentation type of thing, so, how far, what's our next, what do we have to get together before that was?
Next week.
Yeah, that's right, next week, okay. We'll get
This,
through that one and see where we're at.
the meeting list was very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
We're at that point in the year where it is gonna become challenging to keep them all straight.
yeah, there's gotta be, the list is gotta be longer, so. But I would say all in all, wherever this ends up, it's been a worthwhile exercise. There's, we get a lot of information to build off of, whether it ends up with a model that's been presented or something different or nothing at all. We have some data, we have some information, so it's definitely been worthwhile and it's got people thinking, so.
I'm just curious in the course of conversations, because I think just leveraging things, scale is important. Is that, I wonder if there's other things that have come up in conversations, like, well, let's get through this public works things first, but there might be other stuff that we can work with. Either with this town or other
Yeah,
towns.
you never, it may, there hasn't been this, I haven't heard anything going beyond that yet for this particular one, but.
John Roberts
um,
talked about his fire, sharing of the fire department's
Yeah,
resources.
But you're right, you already have like the fire department doing something on their own, being proactive, so,
Yeah.
but, you never know, I mean, it's, once you get an agreement in place with the town and it works, yeah, you go from there, so. I
Maybe,
think.
maybe sharing the tax exempt impact amongst the other towns.
For sure.
So they help compensate that.
Kevin's
Fact
not
that
watching
we're
this
not getting-
live, is he? So we can, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're gonna add something, sorry.
Well, just, I know one of the things that came out of one of the earlier workshops, I think with the full boards, was the consideration in the future, if the need arise, to not maybe buy, if we were to proceed with this, buy property that wasn't just limited to the view of just a public works need, but also envisioning that someday maybe a transfer station would be suitable and not to pigeonhole ourselves in, oh, we wish we had 5 more acres when we bought that, if we went that
Yeah.
route. And so, in that light, the transfer station meeting happened 2 weeks ago.
And it was
And
really horrifying to see how much we paid. Just saying, compared to other towns.
well, how the formula, so to speak, is put together. We do pay the highest amount, of the 5 towns that contribute. And what was proposed at that meeting was a request that the 2-town council of government consider whether or not they'd ever be open to expanding the membership. Because right now we and 2 other towns are just paying members with no vote.
Yeah.
And in light of the capital needs that are coming up and concerns of not being able to control that cost, we just kind of asked, would there ever be a consideration for expanding that? So they said they'd take it back to their respective select boards and have that conversation. So.
That's a start.
Well, it wasn't a no. So.
Right.
Wasn't a no, yeah.
So, look forward to whatever that possibility is, and if not, then
Well,
I think that's one of the ones in the future, just I think right now it's still a worthy
yeah,
contribution to go and do that, but.
I would hope they, if they really want to look into it, you look at, what can be leveraged by having some more partners involved with that. I mean, grants and things, there's a lot to gain on both sides. I mean, obviously, we want to make sure that Damariscotta is protected and the taxpayers and whatnot, we get the best bang for the buck, but it would be nice to have some interest in if they were willing to
Right.
consider a seat at the table, and make a lot of people comfortable,
There was at least one person in the audience from the other 3 towns. I mean, I and Kevin were there, Tor was there. There was a chairman of the board from Bremen that was there. So there was one other, I think, Nobleboro resident there. But not hugely attended, but it was a good conversation nonetheless. So we can see where that goes.
Yeah, awesome.
Otherwise, anything else jump on there you want an update on? That I had.
Anything jumped out?
Isn't on there that you want an update on?
What's that?
Anything that isn't on there that you want an update?
Well, it's not a big deal, but the EV charger reports, they're interesting.
Yeah, Emerson was gonna work, I just threw those in there as, an opportunity, just like, that's just 3 of, I think, 12 or so metrics they provide us to look at.
Yeah.
It was only a certain period of time, I ended up 30-day period. And those were the ones I thought might be most interesting, so in the future, when we can sync it up with like the CMP bill, I think we'll probably try and show, here was the cost for this period, here was the activity. But just wanted some feedback on those are 3 particular graphs. Do you find those particular ones, the metrics you'd like to kind of monitor? Is there something else that you think would be of useful to know? We can pull a bunch of different ways and look at it.
Yeah. I mean, for starting out, to give us something to look at, you can go down a rabbit hole KPI, so.
Right.
Yeah, no,
I think it's
I
a good
think for
start
now,
for me.
yeah, it's early too.
Right.
This is really just the first month.
Mhm.
And it's probably the absolute worst month that you'll ever have,
Okay.
or next month.
No, yesterday was our highest use day, we discovered. Why?
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
And Martin Luther King Day. No, it was the day after the holiday. The day after the holiday.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
But,
It's
Yeah,
gonna-
I mean, that was our conversation this morning, yesterday, that this is probably not the month we wanna model anything by. And
No,
we expect that these graphs in the next 6 months will change pretty drastically.
Yeah,
And
Well,
so
it-
we're, you know, in terms of our rate structure and what we're charging right now, we're trying it out and
Right.
we change it when summer season comes, we need to change it when summer season comes, and if we need to change it in the fall as a result of what happened, we can reevaluate that.
Yeah.
I bet you could just lay a graph on top of, there's these revenue graphs for like sales tax for restaurants and stuff. And they have them for Damariscotta, and you can see a trend, what the trend is through the course of 12 months of the year.
Yeah.
I bet this is just gonna track that trend.
Very,
Just
very
like-
similar.
And these are the lowest months of the year.
So
New system going in.
on December 28th and 29th, were they broken or did everybody go to Times Square for the New Year's?
I have to believe everybody was in Times Square. I mean, as far, we didn't get
Took 2
the
days,
notification
right?
otherwise.
Yeah.
ChargePoint has been very good about notifying us when things are down. Andy was successfully able to kind of remote stop it from the office when we did have an error. So I trust at this point that we would be well notified with any, you know, mechanical issues, other things like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, this is neither here nor there, but there seems to be like 2 cars that park there all the time that aren't EVs.
close
Right
to the
at the
building.
end, yeah. Yeah, towards the building, yeah,
Yeah, we're aware.
not in the handicap space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is
Yeah.
room,
I've
I
seen
don't,
that too.
I think with the snowbank there, I
Once
don't know
covered
that's-
with snow, so.
Yeah.
so there is room at the end of the asphalt between, you know, a small portion of the asphalt and that building, where it's not ours, and sometimes the building owner will park there.
Okay,
Right now with the snowbank, I don't imagine they are. I've seen them park at the end of the alleyway,
Yeah.
which again is theirs with the public's footpath to go through, but, yeah, I know that.
right now it doesn't
One or
matter,
two
because
that,
there's still plenty of other chargers
Right.
But
available.
when it starts to get really busy.
Right,
we
that's,
have to monitor that, yeah.
And we'll have maybe a larger discussion with PD at that point, about
Mhm.
enforcement and turnover. We can discuss raising the idling fee to promote that turnover. There's a lot of measures that I think we can take to
Yeah.
help that cycle through.
well, these guys aren't gonna be plugged in, so they're not even idle.
Right.
So.
Right,
They're-
yeah.
they're
They're
gonna
just
get
there,
locked
yeah.
a little bit.
Well, that's where it's a little, there's like 6 or 7 colors that thing will
Yep.
produce, depending on, you know, each one has a different meaning, and so it does make it easier to see when someone's parked there and it's this color, it means they're not plugged in, it's ready for charge, but,
Yeah,
you know, and if it is charged, you should, so it's just a simple thing to share with them, but yeah, given that it's January, it wasn't hot on that right now.
yeah, no, I wouldn't put that on the top of your list,
Yeah.
but just as the year goes on.
Yeah. As spring approaches, we'll sure to hone that in.
Work the bugs out of it, great. Okay, we can move along, something else to something there on?
Yeah, with that, the strategic plan, Emerson and Gabe's also here, to give a quick little overview of the product they put together for
Yeah.
creation, review, and protocol for new strategies.
You mentioned that
Wait
you
any longer?
didn't want a PowerPoint presentation, so I have some bad news for you.
Oh, no.
But hopefully it should be pretty quick, just to get you guys, oriented. I mean, Gabe is approaching the end of their contract with us. And, you know, we're not quite at the finish line of the strategic plan yet, but we're starting to see it. And so we wanted to come back with you all and, make sure that we are processing your feedback and develop a protocol for, all right, we're gonna have to review this, you know, every year, every 3 years, we're gonna maybe turn it over to the next phase of strategies. And, you know, maybe in the next decade, we're doing a whole new comprehensive plan. So we should probably have a protocol for how we do this again. So that's what this is. And Gabe and I have been developing that protocol over the last week. Wanted to run it by you, make sure it looked good, and that you had a chance to give feedback on the process so far. So yeah, we'll discuss kind of what you've done with the prioritization, how we think the annual and 3-year review process might look like going forward, what the protocol for adding new strategies might look like, and then a smaller tangent for a visual roadmap. Yeah, so next slide. So, you know, we don't have to reiterate the prioritization process. You all were there, you know, but generally speaking, are there elements that you think should be kept in that process? Were there things that you didn't like about it or felt, you know, repetitive, or that it didn't actually, you know, bring out elements that you wanted to bring out?
I mean, the whole process of doing the strategic plan?
No,
Specifically of the scoring, so when you all got the list of strategies and gave it, I think the three different scores of what, 1 to 3, and then met back for what, 3 and before workshops, generally, do you think that was effective? Were there changes you think that should be made for next time? Cause that might be a process we wanna repeat when we add new strategies, that kind of thing.
I think the only, and I don't speak out of turn, but I think the only comment I recall, and I don't remember which was said it, but I like the process. But I think somebody may have mentioned about, I can't remember if we did this or not, had a room for like a note, if you had a clarifying question or something.
Mhm.
Did anybody recall that? Did that come up for discussion at one point? It seemed to,
Was there
all right,
space?
Andy, I'm not losing my mind.
To put a note?
I think if we didn't do it, we had intended following a comment to add that.
I think it was-
in the
Yeah.
spreadsheet there.
Yeah.
I feel like we added it for the second or third.
Yeah.
It might have been taken, that's the only thing I remember having a discussion.
Yeah, I think there was a thing where it was exploring feasibility, I think, was that a term? Feasibility?
There were 3 categories, right, that we were scoring.
Yep, so I think it was relevancy, feasibility, and
Yeah, well, I think there should be some criteria for feasibility. I mean, I think that's sort of a thrown a dart, to some extent. Maybe there's some way to break that down. I don't have an answer for you, but that was one I had a hard time determining.
I think the important one was also raised as a minor challenge because it was already identified in the comp plan as presumably important.
Yeah, there.
So
Yeah.
within that, it was, how do you say it's not important, as it's been identified as important?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, you had to, because I know.
It wouldn't have made the
With
plan
you
if it
guys
wasn't-
being in the,
Yeah.
it was harder, yeah, 'cause they were like, well, it's all important, but then you have to.
Yeah.
Go back to it, like, well, which,
Exactly.
but some things are more important.
But I liked how you broke it down. I mean, that made it easier for us to deal with.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you think the workshop process was successful?
Yeah, it generated some good discussion, I think, so, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, and we all agreed overall, I think it worked well with how it was set up and. Yeah.
And I liked how you set up the planning for the years. I thought that was good
Okay.
also, because it gave us the importance. The ability to focus in on the things that were really what we consider the most important.
Just thinking out loud on the feasibility, because I brought it up.
Yeah.
Too expensive, lack of support, staff support or something, some check boxes.
Yeah.
As to why you think it's not feasible.
So that category might need to be fleshed out a little bit more. Yeah.
It's just when I went through it, that was one I sort of really had to think about.
Yeah, okay, so kind of a little bit more in-depth or.
Yeah, I could say it's really important for the town in my own mind, but then when I got the feasibility, I'm saying, well, who's gonna make the call there, and what's involved,
Yeah, trying to make it a little more objective. Okay. Makes sense.
But also you need a lot more information to figure out what the feasibility is.
Right.
Yeah, but you can at least indicate where your concern is, whether it's lack of staff or lack of funds, whatever happens to be. I could be all wrong here, but.
Well, and you always have to layer over it is that sometimes the things that are most feasible and simple are the least impactful.
Right.
And so the most impactful things may be the ones that require a lot more creative thinking in terms of how you go about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to Tom's point, maybe at least having those check boxes could raise that discussion where we decide, yeah, is really feasible, but it's not as impactful as, focusing our energy on a 3 or 5 year plan. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think no matter what
Makes sense.
it all gets scored as, it still needs to, from my perspective, I'm hoping it's a helpful tool when you go through the budgeting process.
Yeah.
To say like,
Yeah.
well, this is why we're advocating for these resources, whether it's dollars to hire contractors or build something or staff time, expanded staff time and resources. And then if it's just not feasible as you get through that process, everything else that we need to do, at least my hope is that it's a more meaningful, okay, what things are we gonna consciously scale back? That's on our list, it's still important, but we acknowledge right now with everything else coming into focus. And that we just can't go with that initiative right now and hoping that it gives us and the staff at least a better direction each year to say, okay, we know that one is shelved for another year because it didn't get the funding support it needed. And on the other end of that, you know, when something is completed, we were talking today about being able to have those dashboards and how do we come up with the measurables to be able to, you know, the software we have access to is really good with quantitative data, not so much the qualitative, which is what we might need to bring back on the other end with the public, right? We can share with them, here's how we measured it. How do you think we're doing? How is the program working? How did that project fare? But incorporating that back in is like, okay, we got to figure that part out. But it's a piece that we don't really do now. It's just, here's the budget, here's the things we have to get done, we do them. Do you finish it or not? And so I'm trying to make it so we can more full circle and actually include the public on that back end. And that's where we'll get to with the follow-up process, if like.
Yeah, kind of a great segue.
Bring that back.
Yeah, so then, you know, we've got what'll be an annual and a 3-year review likely. So that the annual review will be obviously every year. It should be informed, you know, it shouldn't be any surprises to you all. Because we're gonna have quarterly check-ins. You know, so whether the question remains of is that, you know, myself, Andy giving that quarterly check-in, there's the role of the implementation committee. So they're meeting for the first time on Monday. So obviously they're hopefully gonna have some strong opinions about their involvement in this process. Michael, Andy, and I have been working very closely to determine some of that structure. But there's, you know, a lot we don't know, with this being a new committee and a new format for public and community engagement with town government. So it could also look like maybe a joint meeting between that committee and yourselves giving that quarterly update. That stands to be seen. So the annual and 3-year process are going to look very similar for the most part. I'll talk about what I think the key differences should be in a second, but largely, so with that quarterly check-in, you know, you should have a good understanding, okay, what projects are in motion, and what have been completed successfully or what are still in progress, what has been stalled and why, kind of what challenges are facing, and what projects have we not started, and again, why. I think it's really important to have a good visual with that, so that would be, again, a great place for ClearGov to step in with that progress if we can quantify it. Also a good thing for town staff to be able to come up with another visual that will help with that qualitative software analysis available on the website to the public for folks to be able to see. You know, with that annual review, we should be able to open it up to the public and do that engagement around it so that folks show up to the meeting, even if they don't have questions, at least to get a better understanding of where things are at. And hopefully be able to see that even if all these projects aren't necessarily visible right away, that they are still happening and progress is being made. And so we'll also,
Too far.
yep, we're still there. So we'll go through, you know, status project underway, again, what has been stalled. We also need to review and have consensus on new projects, either that are being moved forward. Obviously, that 3-year review is maybe going to be a larger turnover to that new phase. I think there also should be a pretty comprehensive understanding of the funding available. So that is a question of capacity, obviously. But having an understanding, okay, we've got, you know, 3 or 4 different housing projects that are going to take a lot of work. What are the current housing grants available at the state, federal level? What are other communities doing similar to us? So that's something that I've been working on, building more of a grant database, especially in terms of like climate and resilience, because that's where my fellowship is focused. But I think as a whole, making sure that we are at least in the know, even if we're not applying for them every year, then at least those opportunities are out there and can be applied through the lens of the comprehensive plan, no matter what, that all of those opportunities, the first checkbox we go through is, okay, where does it fit in the comp plan? Where does it fit in the strategic plan? And then obviously ClearGov. Does that process make sense to you all? Does that feel like sufficient, like the kind of information you'd like to receive on that regular basis?
Sure.
Think so? The implementation committee is open to the public, or
Well,
is it a closed committee?
No, I mean, I think we should be open to public.
Okay,
How often are they
but
meeting?
maybe with the rules that we have on our committee.
No, how often?
Well, that's what we're gonna talk about on Monday.
Oh, okay.
I think it's gonna be quarterly, it may be every other month, it kind of depends on what they want. But there's also be working groups, which I imagine will actually meet a lot more often, so.
Come back and.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I'll try and update you maybe at your next meeting or. And let you know what was decided.
Work in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so really the only difference I can see between the annual review process and the 3-year review process would be the level of engagement that we do, and especially that public push. We're thinking timing maybe late summer after the town meeting, but before the budget process, so that we can incorporate the findings, the results, whatever discussion comes of that meeting can help inform the next steps, especially internally. But that 3-year review is gonna involve that ClearGov overhaul as we move from like years 1 to 3 to 4 to 6 and then beyond. Whether it's a total overhaul or not is gonna depend on the progress we make. But I think that's a great opportunity to get the public more involved and say, hey, here's where we are now. Here's where we were 3 years ago. Here's what has changed. Here, we need your input. How did we do? Was this visible? Was this effective? Where should we be focusing in the next 3 years? Because this should be a 2-way conversation.
So are you talking at the town meeting? I think that's a good idea.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
How long you gonna be there?
We've had conversations about, especially in light of the implementation committee and this work, about having potentially not another official town meeting, but another large annual meeting where the public is invited to give updates specifically on the comprehensive plan and on the strategic plan, allowing, maybe for some kind of engagement activity as part of that meeting, and then a more formal presentation. I mean, I've
So
never
instead of
attended.
being there 8 hours on one day, you're gonna be there 4 hours on 2 days each.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never attended a town meeting here, but I would imagine that it's a pretty hefty affair. I don't know.
Hasn't been like.
I'd like it to be.
So there's.
I'll be honest with you.
We could very much add this to the agenda, or, I think there is a possibility of, having another and getting the public to expect another way of engaging with us and showing that there is more opportunity for that conversation, than just at that one meeting. But really, it is up to you all.
I think it's something we ought to consider, so I think we'll get better turnout on both issues. We'll get more people, I think, if you bring another major issue like that into the fore. More participation than we've had in the past, but just something we consider down the road, yeah.
I really think it should be a separate day.
Put potluck in between and help the lunch.
Yeah, good, right. Yeah.
So we are divided on this issue. We will bring it up another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing needs to go on there, but something for you all to think about, how we do that. Yeah, and so obviously, we've talked a lot about, well, new projects are gonna come up, people are gonna have outside interest, there's gonna be work going on that we didn't know about that relates to the stuff in the strategic or comp plan, and we need to figure out how we're gonna approach that, because it needs to be included and it needs to be acknowledged, and I think there does have to be something of a standardized process for that. So you and I came up with a protocol for how we're gonna approach those new strategies. Number one, does it align with our vision and values? Does this relate to the work that we're doing and where we want to go? So that would be where we maybe use that same scoring process that you all used before. And then determine, what comp plan focus area that's going to fall into, what category, if we're sticking with the categories that Gabe and I have come up with so far, what category that falls into, and what guiding values that's going to be your sustainability, your livability, your vibrancy. Very basic. And then budget implication: is funding available? By what means? Can we use existing funding? Are we going to need something new? Where is it coming from? The basics there. Side. And then I think we need to understand how it aligns with the current strategic plan projects, to determine if this needs to be a whole separate new initiative, if this can be, something of a sub goal. We'll see. And so I came up with a list of questions, kind of maybe similar to Tom's feasibility criteria. Does it involve the same or similar ordinance or zoning laws? In this case, the same overhaul. Can this be addressed by the same work we're already going to do for that ordinance? Does it involve any of the same stakeholders or partner organizations? Again, we're already doing that work, especially those in the working groups from that implementation committee. Does it complete any phases of existing or upcoming projects? What resources do we already have or are already operating with that could help move that forward? And then what new resources do we need? Is this gonna be a huge increase on staff capacity, personnel, or timing? Is this a huge budgetary implication? What kind of engagement are we looking for here? And so on. And then, you know, we would think that a request to add a new strategy would be introduced at the meeting. You all would discuss and then approve it at the next meeting. Obviously, that's flexible, but generally we'd expect that that might be enough time. So with that in mind, does that sound like a solid protocol to you all? Are there steps that we're missing or? key
No,
factors that
I'd really like to
consider?
consider new strategies that,
Okay.
you know, we obviously haven't thought of everything and the world changes, so.
Yeah,
That's
great.
good.
Yeah, and those visuals in your packets
Yeah.
are just a simplified version that, you know, we can give to folks who have never seen this process before and
Mhm.
help understand.
Sounds good.
A lot of, no, oh, we're gonna make you redo the whole time. We don't like it.
I'm glad you're telling me now.
Oh, you've done a great job. That was a lot to put together, so.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, we got one more
Mhm.
side tangent. So kind of in this discussion, we had talked about the idea of visualizing some of this, right? Making this literally more visible through engagement, but also potentially here in the town office. Andy had brought up that, is it Rockland, that has done an interesting visual with their comprehensive plan in their boardroom, I understand, where they literally have some of the plan or some representation of it on the wall.
Yeah, I think it was like the focus areas were like printed on, like, I call them tablets, you know, just kind of matted frame type things where they have a much larger back wall. But I think about, is there something you want, like maybe on our back wall, that would kind of keep the board or anyone else meeting in the room kind of grounded in kind of like your vision and what we're working towards, or not.
No, I think that's a great idea, because I remember one of the early planning things where we had pictures on the wall, people were reviewing them and circling
Yeah.
things and writing things on it.
And to take a look, that's what we're.
Yeah, visual stuff, good.
Yeah, have you thought about whether they'd be like framed around livability, resiliency and that sort of thing? Or would they be around like, oh, things like,
Dan, you're getting ahead of it there.
I'm sorry, like housing or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Categories.
there's a lot that we could do with it. So we've kind of separated it into our short term, long term, because this is maybe not the most important decision that we're gonna make, but still could be
Right.
something that benefits this process. So short term, you know, this is an example, something, a really engaging visual, you know, that includes our vision, our guiding values, goals, and maybe categories. So it could be a little more in depth. Again, so this would be a little bit altered, if we go
Okay.
one back. Yep, and so
Oh,
again, we
oh.
could, yeah, this is the mock-up I threw together. If we wanted it to be a little simpler for the time being, could
Mhm.
center those three guiding values, put them up on the wall for now. That could be something, you know, as simple as a printout. I think the objective here is just to remember again that all of our decisions really should be going through that comp plan. That should be that first.
Yeah, because somebody new coming into town or even into this room, if it's there, this is the first thing they're gonna look at.
Yep.
Do we have wall space in the lobby? That
Depends how-
I'm just thinking of foot traffic. and
How big you
stuff.
want, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's something to consider about the placement of it, because we do, I mean, we get limited. If you've got folks coming in, new registrations and whatnot, they're going there, but not coming in this room.
Right.
So it might be worth considering placement. I like the idea of it, but maybe considering, take a look and say, could it be in the main traffic areas, you know, just go, oh, look at that, the discussion could happen maybe.
These look good, but I'd like, did anybody take a picture of what Rockland is doing? I mean, rather than reinventing the wheel, if it's effective.
It's all text,
it's
yeah,
text?
it doesn't look like
No,
this.
yeah, I think
Oh,
that's a lot better than.
But it was written out
Yeah.
as text and kind of like just
Yeah.
copying what their kind of values were in their
Yeah,
comp plan.
no, I like the pictures.
Visual.
I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't ask anybody for permission to do this mock-up, so we'd have to go through and I'd have to.
Yeah.
But,
It's, yeah, all right.
But.
No, I think that looks good,
Yeah.
yeah. It'll attract attention better.
Shutterstock watermark.
Yeah. But you know, so short term, I think that could be something feasible. Long term, you know, we've thought about having a map of the town, to your point, that could be something interactive, showing where projects are being done, showing maybe which category they belong to. I think it'd also be great to involve our youth in this process. You know, get them to draw or paint or some kind of visual representation of how they see this work progressing, where they want the town to go. I know that's something we did during the comp planning process with asset maps, but I think that could be a really great, more permanent addition. Again, something a little bit more interactive for folks who come in.
Need a bigger lobby, Andy.
Got a huge wall out here in front of the parking lot.
No, you can take all the individual areas and then you can bring them all into one map.
Yeah.
So you'd highlight, you'd have an, you know, A on the first big area topics, then you have A on the map, you know.
Yeah.
Need to reference to where our target areas would be.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that again could be, you know, I don't think that we've worked enough with the schools, and involving like in this process. That's something I'm excited to help with it with my capacity. So thinking about that, also a GIS map using their interactive story map feature to help, you know, show where projects are happening, show photo updates of the work that's been going on. People can literally navigate around Damariscotta, on their phones, on their computers and see what that work is. That's beyond, but, yeah, so that's kind of where we're headed. I mean, you've given your thoughts kind of throughout the process, but is this something that you'd like us to, consider further? Generally?
I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I think
I
that's,
Get the head nod.
I
Yeah.
think that's all we've got for you all. Again, is there any other feedback on this process or the suggested protocol that you'd like to throw our way?
Anybody have any questions, members?
All right.
I'd say you guys are doing a great job, a lot of work.
Keep it up.
So, yeah,
That's great.
put it all together, so thank you. Keep it up. So, all right. Get back on, what are we here? Parking. So we already did the damn new Public Works Committee update, really, we got into that at the end, so, yeah. So, yeah, let me get the bearings here for a second, we can move into,
Is it?
yeah, it's in the end there, so I asked Andy to throw this on the agenda. Just to revisit the parking and traffic ordinance and,
But not for the EV stuff. I thought we were talking.
no, I was gonna look at, where were we, section 6, I think, to get back to, yeah, it's Article 6, it's towards the back. And the only reason I can bring it
Article
up,
1,
yeah,
traffic and parking.
yeah, we're great, that, on Article 6, which is almost, I think it's the third page from the end there, so.
Okay.
The only reason I bring it up is out of, some public safety concerns, and I think there's some things that we might wanna revisit and consider with it. I don't know if everyone wants to take, I can, throw some ideas out anyway.
3, 4, and
That's it, yeah,
you're close. Next page.
Next page.
No, this one.
you're almost there, Tom, yeah, I know, I'm for it, oh,
This is what he wants.
Okay.
yeah.
Next one. Next page. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
there we go, yeah, and it was mostly in reference to, public safety, which obviously the whole ordinance is kind of, ruled around that, but with, pedestrian flow, vehicle flow and whatnot, we have a lot of large events in town. Pumpkin Fest is one thing, everybody's fully aware of that, parades and whatnot, and the way our ordinance is written, if you look through the notification section, is that, any person, group, organization, entity, or activity that may affect normal flow of traffic, roadway, so on and so forth, is required to give the Damariscotta Police Department 10 days notice before that happens. That can probably be a little difficult at times if there's something coming up that might be last minute. At the same time, the way I read this is obviously, is trying to keep everybody safe. I know. Oh, it was a couple months ago, GSB had a large event. I do recall they did notify police department, but it was relatively short.
What do they have?
It was neat. Was it a Friday evening or Monday evening event?
It's a Monday.
I think it was a,
I think you're talking about the Grand.
Was it a Grand Platinum?
Event up there where like 700 people.
There was
showed up, and they were using-
big event, yeah. And they had provided,
They did a great job.
they had provided, there were some folks that were like directing traffic, direct
Yeah.
traffic, so where the concern would come into, and then similar to, a couple weeks ago with the bridge, there were folks that were stopping traffic with stop signs, in the crosswalk. And great, I applaud them for doing that. My concern would be making sure that the, it's done safely and correctly. Like, we're not opening up, if something happens, I don't want to see anybody get hit or something happen there. So, I would be, I haven't rewritten this or anything, but in the effort of, I understand, like, it's hard sometimes with, you may have an event that may have, I think the Grand Platinum event was it got moved last minute, I think. So they had an event and then it came up, so they had a short window
Yeah, I think we were notified on Friday for the Monday event.
Yeah, yeah. So I wonder if there's a way that, because if you read the ordinance, if we enforced it, they would have been in violation of that ordinance and.
Or the police chief could have waived it.
Or, right, or waived it, so.
Well,
yeah.
Waive it?
The other thing is we're supposed to have a police person there.
Well, and that's right, per, the police chief, so that's the things that need to be considered, yeah, just to
The
make
event you're
sure.
talking about, there was no police presence.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, and
being-
fire was,
Being mindful of the reasons why this is written the way it is. I mean, it's really to minimize public safety risk as much as possible. And really with regards to like roads, sidewalks,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And what happens on private property, like in the school is one thing, but when that event hosted by us, the school, the Y, whatever entity has property hosting something, is when it spills out into the roadway. And you've got an undersized facility,
yeah,
and not enough parking, that then becomes our problem. When fire
Yeah.
trucks and ambulances can't get to places, whether it was the school, Hammond Street, whatever other neighboring place, that's a problem for public safety and the others at large. You don't want to have to sit there figuring out how we can get this car out of the way so we can get the ambulance here.
I don't think anyone's gonna disagree with what you're saying, so what are you guys proposing?
I don't just say a proposal, it's just more of that's what I would bring up as a discussion item,
Yeah.
like, how do you balance it, I don't, obviously, we don't wanna say like, hey, I don't wanna see the police department going out or us levying. Was it $250, I can't remember what the fine is on here, but it's like, you don't wanna really levy fines on folks that are trying to, I think it more of a whether or not there's some way to rewrite this, is the 10 days prior, is that feasible for folks? Is that enough for, I think this is where, like, the new police chief coming in, I think that's
Yeah.
something we'd have him
Yeah.
look at. Same thing with the fire department, with John Roberts, with the chief, maybe have them, get their take on how this is written and what's feasible, because where it says, there's probably said we require an officer, if the police chief, but how much time does he need to be able to do that, is.
Well, it needs more than a weekend.
Well, right, or is it one, did they think, well, I can get somebody there, within 2 days, I mean, that's something that I think we
Well,
need some more
I
input.
can add
from.
something to this.
from them.
Rotary has traditionally done a lot of the parking for the events
Mhm.
at both the Y and at GSB. And when we've done those events, generally speaking, there is a policeman and a police car sitting on the road where the exits and the entrance of all the traffic is.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
generally, they monitor what's going on. If the people like if the Rotary people are doing it right and everything's flowing, everybody's safe, then they just sit in their car and they watch. Or sometimes they'll come out, intervene, whatever. So I think having notice to the police department, so they can make a decision that makes sense for the public to supervise if necessary, or if they don't think is necessary, they can make
Yeah.
a call, but. I think it's important that they get more than 3-day notice.
Gotcha, yeah.
Maybe it's not 10 days, but I mean, most of these events are pre-planned. I mean,
A lot of them are, and I mean, like the annual ones are all planned and stuff, but I know there's sometimes things come up where there might be a last minute and how do you accommodate that without saying like, well, you didn't give 10 days notice and here's your $250 fine, I think that's a little.
well,
Maybe a little-
what then they could do is
Yeah.
contact the police department, get a waiver.
Well, so that would be right, and I think having more, maybe just coordination, communication with, others, I would like to, the incoming chief, have them, and I don't know the last time when, if the fire chief, because it only references police department on here too, and I know.
References in general, I mean, I think in a more general sense, something about the fire chief.
Well, it's chief of police, police department.
Well, I think that's like you said, I think it's a perfect opportunity for the police chief, who has a lot of
Mhm.
experience in this area, no doubt, to look at this and come back to us with any recommendations he thinks.
Yeah.
Because his department is involved in this. He's in the regulation. So let's see what he has.
That's
to
kind of,
say.
I just wanted to hear,
Yeah,
you know,
let's see
some
what
other
he has to
thoughts on
say.
that.
But there's nothing in here that says that the fire department needs to be notified.
Well,
Yeah.
the emergency, I mean, it does, in a general sense, not specifically, um. The last, under section one notification, the last sentence there, that
Mhm.
there'll be the responsibility of the police, chief of police and or the designee to notify the town office or any area emergency service
Yeah,
provider.
so it goes through the chief, as the ordinance goes through the chief, and then it's up to the chief to notify, yeah, which makes sense, one,
So,
you know, contact, yeah.
so this is, in some ways, it's written very broad.
Mhm.
And, you know, it says any person, group, organization, entity, construction or otherwise. So it could be like CMP coming and doing like cutting down trees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
On a road.
yeah, you could interpret it,
Right?
right,
Because that certainly impacts. the flow of
anything that
traffic.
affects normal flow, construction,
So-
right?
Yep.
Yeah,
So if I don't like the fact they're cutting trees in my house, I'll say, did you get your 10? No.
Well,
yeah,
let's not confuse, whether you like the trees being cut or not.
No, I'm
You
just,
have-
I'm using this as the.
but no,
way to
but that's,
stop it, so.
you're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Because we might say, well, they're not impacting the road yet, sorry.
Well, they are, because they're in the middle of the road. and
So
Already, if somebody parks on the
Yeah.
road, people have to stop.
I can give you an example where police judgment is important. Okay, so like I said, Rotary does this parking all the time.
Right.
And there was a case where I was out there in the middle of the street, right, and I'm directing traffic, and this guy just blasted by me and just ignored it, you know, and could have caused an accident, whatever, and that's when the policeman got out and he started taking, you know, a whole outfit,
Yeah.
you know, stopping traffic, he took control, because he was needed to
Yeah.
assert himself. So I think, again, the police chief, hopefully, coming in, is gonna have a lot of experience, he's been in bigger towns, that kind of.
Yeah, I'd like to just take on it, yeah, and again, to Joe's point, I'd be concerned with a situation where. You have folks on the bridge exercising the First Amendment right, and they're doing the right thing, they're trying to make sure everybody's safe in crossing, but if somebody says, I don't, you know. What authority to have to stop me, and I'm gonna continue
Yeah,
through,
exactly.
the risk of somebody getting hit there, and having, at least having a conversation with the police, like, how do we mitigate that? So everybody's safe and not getting hurt, so you don't have, you know, somebody doesn't recognize, yes, because I have an orange vest on, doesn't.
Well, we had an example of
Yeah.
that problem with our interim police, Phil Tessier, having to intervene on the bridge once.
Oh, for a traffic
For traffic,
situation,
yeah.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
I
okay.
think let our new chief decide
Yeah.
if we need to change.
yeah, that's the only reason I wanted to, there's a lot, I mean, the parking ordinance we've had several times.
There's a much broader, review of it in
Yeah.
general. I mean, there's some things in there that,
Probably not
on the
the last
radar
time.
to be looked at, whether it's winter parking, coordination and restrictions to, which streets have parking on them at all.
Yeah.
And so I think all of it probably has been on our radar to review the whole thing. And
And
I did
enforce
include.
some of this parking where they park illegally.
And I believe even right now, if you went to the payment end of that,
Mhm.
just to point that out.
Oh, yeah.
It would probably be a bargain if somebody wanted to hire the Damariscotta Police Department to do any.
$38 an hour.
$38 an hour. So, that's another reason to look at, like, I don't think that's
Yeah,
covering
that
costs,
needs
especially
to
an
be-
overtime shift,
So
so.
when was this thing written?
So,
Medford,
2015,
2015, I think.
yeah, so at the very least, we probably should update the fee schedule on that, to something that's more in line, so. If I was looking, I'd go, hey, that's pretty great, hire some security for $30 an hour, yeah. So I end up to throw something at him as soon as he comes in, but it'd definitely be, working document, get him, I mean, the whole thing, right, at some point, we got input from parking enforcement from the new chief coming in, so it's the whole thing needs to be gone through, but it's just part of it, just make sure everybody's safe and nobody's getting hit in the street or anything, so, yeah.
Right.
So,
Can I add, 2 cents to that?
yeah,
I think there's two things. One, I think this lines up with an issue that I've just been seeing with other ordinances, which is
So I don't think everybody's entirely aware of what they necessarily need to do, so.
Yeah.
You know, just, it might be good to just provide kind of like an informational thing of, like, you're required to let the police know in 10 days in advance if you're gonna have an event kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not to get into, because these ordinances are dense.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I think most of the community has some idea, but it might be good just to give these kind of like, just a general awareness of like, you need to let the police know if you're gonna be impacting traffic.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I see it different with, development and applications, like, yeah, you do need to get an application or submit an application for X, Y, or Z. It's not gonna be necessarily enforceable because of that document that we put out, but it might just be, you know, getting
It's a good
awareness
idea.
would be
yeah.
good, and just the broad concept of like,
Yeah.
you need to let us know about X, Y, or Z. And then, once they're here, usually people are pretty, happy to like, okay, well, what do I need to do? They just don't know that they need to do it at first, so.
No, you're absolutely right, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't know
Yeah.
until you start digging through that, I get,
So how
back,
do you
there was a
communicate that to
notification.
people?
Yeah.
You go up, do you reach out to them, or
Well, I
do you
think,
have to somehow? Yeah.
I think, so when I'm thinking about this from the like land use
Yeah,
stuff, is to just give kind of broad overview of like, you can say, yeah, like, anytime you're building a building, you do need to get a permit, right? And that way, it's just like they know to come initially for, okay, well, I am building a building, so I just go ask, like, what do I need to do that? Especially if we're changing anything. Cause I've heard some fun, reasons why, like, oh, we didn't need, I don't need a permit for that. Oh, why do you need a permit for that? Oh, because it's blue, so the town doesn't regulate things, you know, it's like, you get random things, you're like, no, that's not what that says, and so I just think just general information kind of thing, it might, for land use, it's probably gonna be something different, I don't know where you put traffic regulation.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
rolling,
Something
So
together,
much.
parking.
Yeah.
I think as like, you know, our, you know, police department, whoever's on duty, were to see a tree cutting crew out there with road signs set up, I'm always like surprised when I see them, I know.
Yeah.
Like, what road work ahead, who's doing work on the road?
Yeah.
They just the local road, no one told me.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's an opportunity just to roll up and, hey, were you aware? And at that point, you give them a handout to say, here, in the
Yeah.
future, and then you've got a documented kind of stop and warning, and you're not gonna issue anything presumably as long as they are set up safely, but if they don't have a safe work zone set up, which happens from time to time, there's no advance notice, that's where it gets even worse. And then they would have the ability to say, you gotta stop. Yeah, I have reached out to DOT to kind of get, what is their protocol for
Mhm.
work on state aid or state
Right.
roads? You know, cause there is a sign package that needs to go out when you're impacting the traffic for more than X amount of minutes.
Mhm.
Work ahead and whatnot, so I think we just need to adopt that potentially as well and say,
It's communication.
and here's what's
Yeah.
required if you are gonna be in the roadway, you
Right.
need to have these things in place.
Yeah.
But I think you can just take it as they come, it's like a builder, I mean, if someone's like, hey, they're building, I don't think they have a permit, oh, you're right, let me go check on them. And Mike's been really good about approaching it in a way of like, didn't you know? And if they're honest and genuine, it's like, oh, okay, well, here's the permit, please get it to me today.
I don't think we want anybody to build a building if they don't know they need a permit in advance, so they're not gonna be smart enough to build it.
Well, there's places that don't require.
Yeah, you'd be
Yeah.
surprised how many
Yeah.
people say, oh, I thought I could just do X without.
Yeah.
Well, when we have like the Pride Parade, they tell us ahead of time that they're doing.
Well,
it.
They've
Yeah,
coordinated
that's a
very well
very-
with the.
You know,
Did
when
they
you're,
tell us ahead of time about the Renee Good Vigil walk?
I think day of, I think the officer caught wind of it happening, because it was the same
That
day,
was
there
a
was
big,
crossing guards that just showed up on Main Street.
yeah,
That was the day of the,
That was a
okay,
big
yeah,
event.
that was with the crossing guards, right, yeah.
But no,
but no, the
beyond that.
vigil that night
There was
was,
one at night? Okay.
yes,
Yeah,
that was
I know
200
during-
people or so.
No, they, yeah, I don't think they noticed that.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you're
Well,
gonna have,
that's a lot of people.
you don't have, you know, generally, we don't have the right to just take a group of people and hold up traffic on Main Street, right? And so that's the whole thing, communicate with us, make sure the public can be advance notice of these things.
Mhm.
You know,
Well,
oftentimes like people that wanna do runs, walks or runs.
Exactly.
You know, they'll reach out, hey, what do we need to do? If you wanna go through Main Street, we'll try and work an alternative route, because if you wanna go through Main
Yeah.
Street, and we got one right now that we gotta look at for the summer, I think. You wanna start in Newcastle, come across the bridge, go up and around town and come back through. It's like, well, that's gonna require a fair amount of traffic control, because you got some major intersections to post up.
Absolutely.
And so that, for all things, that's a more common one for us. It's those, you know, we didn't know the group of people were getting together and they're just here now all of a sudden. Well, now what? Because it is.
Yeah, I mean, in that particular event, I know I spoke to one businessman, who owns a store here. And he was okay with the cause and all that, but he said it was really affecting his business and was not happy about it. I know he spoke to you as well.
Well, parking, parking's
yeah,
an issue,
yeah, and
yeah.
also
certainly,
The
yeah.
traffic being
Yeah.
blocked or whatever, so.
Parking's.
They don't have a right to the parking.
Right, the
Yeah.
parking's a minor,
rest of
subject
it,
matter
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but the.
But I would suggest, I mean, our, like, and this is, again, I'll go back to, like having a local police department, right? Our police department has historically worked very well with any event going on, like Pumpkin Fest and parades and the organizations that have been on the bridge, they work very well with them. I think it's just, again, the crux of it comes down to communication, right? Just making sure that like,
Right,
hey, we're gonna have an event, it's gonna be bigger than usual, and the chief or whoever's in command, that line, just coordinate, and they just want everybody to be safe, but not, say, hey, this is our plan, we're gonna have crossing guards, is that okay? Like, well, let me get an officer down there and, to help you guys out, or something like that, to make sure.
Yes, just like I said in my example, when I was doing the parking and it got out of hand, you got the police there.
Yeah, you had a town authority
Yeah.
close by, that kind of mitigates anything, so, just, yeah.
So maybe we
Yep.
have to put out a reminder or something to people that if they're doing things like the people that do the Pride Parade know
Mhm.
to ask.
Mhm.
But if in the future, because we're gonna have a lot more of these things going on as the year proceeds. And people should be aware that they need to let the police department know ahead of time when this is gonna happen, because we all know it's gonna happen. We're all
Well, the
told ahead of
gathering is
time.
one thing, but I mean, I think our purview with this ordinance, this is all about traffic and parking regulation, and so if you're impacting the
Well, that's what
public
I'm saying,
ways.
like
and so
the
if it's-
Renee Good one should have probably been, the police should have been told that it was gonna happen, because 200-300 people walking in that vigil was a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah, and ideally,
You
and then
could
my, the complication with the ordinance is that 10 days, but with a waiver, like, so you look at it on the face value and go, well, this was give 10-day notice, well, that wasn't in a,
gonna happen.
not possible, right? So the other side, that would be communication with the
With at
police
least
and a waiver, say,
communication
okay,
with
we're
the
good, and,
police, yes.
yeah, so basically, when the chief comes in, he's gonna go meet everybody.
He's gonna have a busy.
He's gonna be a busy
Yeah.
man, busy man, so, but yeah, it just, again.
I hang around a little longer, we'll have some more things for him to do.
Yeah.
And we could probably spend several meetings going through the parking ordinance and, give everybody, in your spare time, if you're bored, go take a bit.
Oh, by the way, some new items came up last week.
Yeah, so, yeah.
You included something, the special second, this legislative thing here.
Yeah, so that's a law that
What
passed.
should be the takeaway?
It was related to the parking, I think there was questions
just
whether or not there was
passed?
enough
It says-
signage up on our parking lots. To effectively enforce.
Oh, that's right.
And so this was a law that was
Mhm.
passed. First
Like a week or
session
two
of
ago.
132.
Yeah.
And these were the amendments to that a year later. This all came out of, I think mostly out of what USM was doing for their parking enforcement practice. In which some folks were pretty, unthrilled with how they chose to do that. I think in some regard, I had the impression like there's technology out there now that you don't have to have a parking enforcement officer out there. You can use video technology now to
Oh,
identify when someone's
that's
stayed beyond.
true.
But it was the lack of signage and how it was ticketed and how they were notified that they were in violation, that warranted a state law regulating parking. And well, after it got implemented, the questions came up, what about on-street parking?
Mhm.
How do we effectively sign the regulations when you have street side parking versus a parking lot with limited entrance and exits? I mean, and so it was unclear now in terms of how do we as towns effectively work through what they've just passed. And so this now is a reaction to how we've been asking, how do we implement this? How do we make sure it's enough signage to not be in violation of the statute? And so they've effectively taken out some of that, the signage part. The part where it says must be conspicuously and prominently posted within the property so that it is visible. And I think about where that applies to the back parking lot. We got signs up along the sides of the streets for hours of parking allowance and no parking in certain streets, but, the back parking lot's kind of our biggest beast, especially in the wintertime. In terms of getting things cleaned up and cleared for the contractor's sake and, where do you put people? How do you know they know where they need to go? It's come up a couple times this year.
Yeah.
But, and just sharing with that, it's one of these laws that happened and quickly is being amended and they're hard to keep up with.
There's not a law in there.
I thought it was a good time to share it.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Does anybody have any other discussion items before we close for the evening?
Yeah,
Leave it open. Yep. Andrew's got something down here. Yeah.
have we been paid for the parking lot yet?
What?
Have we been paid for the parking
Oh.
lot yet?
Not last I knew, no.
Ugh.
We're not, in jeopardy of going bankrupt or anything.
No,
But
but
it's a lingering, it's a lingering.
It's a lingering,
It's a
yeah.
lot of money to worry about.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily worried about it. We're not like not in compliance or anything. We're just a slow slog of communication.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, if you're not worried.
they are still communicating. It's just,
Oh, they
Okay.
are. Oh, that's good.
We haven't been ghosted.
they're back after the shutdown. They're back.
Until the next one.
Yeah.
Right.
In a couple of weeks.
We haven't been ghosted then, yeah.
On that front, I do,
Yeah.
I'm very interested in tracking the funding bills because technically we're still, last I knew, in the running for some money for the
Congressional
Congressional
designated funding.
Okay.
although it's a far cry from what we advocated for. I think we'd asked for like 3.5 million.
Mhm.
It's still on a list for 850,000.
Okay.
And is that for
The Church Street.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it does leave a gap. We still need to get some additional funding and it would mean that it wouldn't get very far for either project necessarily, because it was a partnership with the coastal rivers to try and do that one too. So
Right.
there is a Northern Borders grant deadline kind of relatively fast approaching. That I think has the potential to provide some additional funding for the Church Street piece.
Mhm.
We've got some cash still from the bond proceeds. There's some private donations that came in for the sidewalk in particular along that stretch. I think when we put it all together, it'd be interesting to see what the difference is that we still need to complete that project. But I feel like Lincoln County was added a year ago, I think, to eligibility for Northern Borders. Something Lincoln County Regional Planning had to advocate for and was able to get that to happen. So I understand Lincoln County, I don't think had any apply last time it was open. And I think this year there's more people interested from Lincoln County and others, but I think it's worth keeping on the radar to, if we get the 850 to throw in, I think it could help fill that gap.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, thank you for juggling all that. It's a
Definitely.
job in and of itself, looking at the grants and
No
whatnot.
kidding.
Okay. All right.
Now, we don't have to sign for the liquor license.
You do have to go get it before you leave.
Okay.
It's on the wall.
Yeah, we'll sign these anyway, so. All right.
So, I was gonna say that the town public works truck came by my street at 6:15 this morning.
All right.
Or,
All right.
I don't know what they were up to, but I appreciated it.
I think they were happy to have it back. It's
So they were just driving around town.
probably.
They went down to the point, turned around,
Cruise.
There's another,
checking to see if the street was still there.
there's another 3 weeks that we hadn't had it. For more repairs. And so I think
That's a
I
lot.
asked John, I said, do we have a sense of how many days it hasn't been in service this fiscal year?
Yeah.
And to the best of our knowledge, it looks like it's about 36% of the days, calendar days so far from July 1 that it hasn't been in service. So 79 days it's been out of service.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
In
so-
which they've only been able to use the little tractor or their personal vehicles. And so it's becoming a challenge.
An idea.
Last year
Yeah.
it was another 60 to 80 days where we didn't have it.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a show and tell then.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were happy to have it back and.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they've just been.
Did he go by all the select person?
It did by my house. I heard this morning too and commented.
You'd have a reason to go by my house, that would be.
Yeah, private roads can't go over here.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Awesome. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
Waiting for you now.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
waiting for your adjourn, so I'll get up and go. You don't-
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Right, second.
Second, Dan seconds. All those in favor? All right, we are good, everybody. So we just need to, yeah, Andy's gonna grab that